every 7 people who summit K2, 1 will die. It's steep from every side.
You have difficult geological routes and you have no support.
Only the best of the best have ever summited K2. It's probably the greatest icon of mountaineering.
There's a million reasons not to subject yourself to climbing an 8,000-meter peak. You gotta want to do it.
It is amazing how deep K2 has gotten into my soul. I don't want to play against an opponent that is less than me. I want to play against an opponent that is greater than me.
It's one thing to get to this altitude. It's another thing just to get your ass whooped by the snow conditions and the wind.
K2's kicking the crap out of us again.
The Shared Summits team has been planning this climb for nearly a year, and their journey begins in Islamabad, Pakistan. From here to base camp, 16 days. Just getting to the mountain, a rugged ordeal. The Jeep convoy covers sweltering plains and soon remote tribal areas as the trail heads up.
You know, I first tried to climb K2 in 2002, and that season nobody summited. Came back in 2005 to try it again, and that season nobody summited. I just don't like failure.
K2 is the most difficult, the most demanding. It is certainly one of the most dangerous 8,000-meter peaks.
They follow the Indus River on something remotely called a road. Just 30 years ago, this was done on foot. And it's part of why only 1/10 of the number of climbers who've done Mount Everest have done K2. This is a remote corner of the country, where 5 of the world's tallest peaks are crammed along the Chinese border. Tiny village at 9,000 feet, which marks the end of driving.
K2 is a pretty lonely peak. There's not a lot of traffic on it.
The K2 climber has a more dangerous experience. The Everest experience is not that dangerous. There is the altitude, but most people are hedging their bets with oxygen, bringing the summit 1,000 meters lower.
Everest is by some regards the easiest 8,000-meter peak. K2 is not that way. It's technically more demanding, and with the less infrastructure and the less crowds on there, it's a lot harder.
And it's a sunny morning.
A lot of Everest climbers on the first summit, they come down, they say they have an empty feeling. Well, no wonder. It wasn't hard enough.
K2 is so difficult. It is so hard. You need a team.
The most important thing for me is to come back alive. To do that, I really need to surround myself with a group that I can trust. I really wanted to get 4 climbers, everybody with tremendous amount of 8,000-meter peak experience, and have a group of people that can work together as a team, and then have that kind of thirst to do something a little bit different. I thought by going to try a route that's never been climbed on this unclimbed face of K2, I thought that would really probably bring out the best that every single person is bringing to the table. I definitely want there to be an unknown that we're going into. Welcome to Urticus. This is the last place on our trip into K2 Base Camp where life exists because we're on solid ground. When we step past here, we're on about 1,000-foot thick glacier for the next 2 months.
The 7-day, 65-mile hike takes a week and will carry the team 8,000 feet higher. The landscape becomes more barren and otherworldly. The natives are used to it, the climbers marvel at it. There is nearly 3 tons of gear and supplies to carry, and it's all they have to last 10 weeks. For some of the local men, this is their only income, and 109 lucky ones pocket $12 a day. They may not understand why these foreigners do this, but it pays their bills. The next part, they want no part of. Hiking higher, the air gets thinner and the temperatures drop. And then the team gets the first real look at what they're here to do. Climb something higher than that. Base camp to be built on a thin floor of gravel already spread on a foundation that is a moving glacier. Next, unsteady steps as the climb begins. The Shared Summits team is at the base of K2, all 28,251 feet of it. Only 252 have made it to the top, 64 died trying. This team, 4 committed men.
You know, our team isn't big. It's only 4 strong people with tons of experience. But that's going to make it more difficult for us to be able to pull this off just because of the amount of work that needs to be done. We also wanted to have a team that totally gelled, so if we had any more climbers, we might lose the spiritual or physical energy that we need and traded that off just for the raw carrying power.
I like our team. I think we're strong. You know, I've been on a couple of expeditions for the last few years and haven't seen a summit on an 8,000 feet in 2 years in the Himalayas, and so I think I've got a healthy dose of motivation right now.
Everybody is anxious and ready to go. Of the 10 or so recognized routes to the summit, the team has chosen to assault the east face, which has not been visited by a human in 20 years.
For me, the biggest challenge in mountaineering is unsolved problems. The attraction of this is the combination of the physical element and the unknown element of having to solve problems as we go to climb new routes.
Don and Bruce are trying to find a route to the advanced base camp, which will allow them to start making serious progress. They mark the route with plastic wands, but it is an endless maze of crevasses which look like hungry mouths. There is no map to follow, no way to know if this is the right way. Breathing is labored. Late in the day, with the route not even halfway finished, the weather deteriorates, and they have to return to the original base camp. Things then turn grisly and ominous.
All right, walking back through the glacier here. On our way back from our recon trip. And on the glacier we find a body, and it looks like it's come somewhere from the Cheshire route or something like that. Maybe made its way down the glacier a little bit. We just can't move because we have a hole there. We have a hole there.
The base camp should be beyond all of this.
Yep.
Don and Bruce are exhausted and have to believe tomorrow will be a better day. On the day of the second attempt to establish a higher base camp, the team is greeted by sunshine and blue skies.
Climbing has two challenges. There's always the physical challenge of getting to the top of a mountain. It takes a certain degree of training and fitness. But there's a mental challenge as well. And when I climb in the Alps or in America, I usually follow a guidebook.
This face has been attempted 3 times before by teams of really A-class climbers. They've not gotten very high on it at all. I know we have the technical skills to get through all the barriers that are up there. We just need good weather conditions.
Essentially, Chris and Bruce are trying to solve a glacial riddle and whether this mass of ice will allow them to find a way up to the east face.
And when I'm mountaineering in Asia, I like to be at the frontiers of where things are. I like to be doing something new. And that's why the challenge for me, the adventure, is also composed partly of getting there and partly of finding out how to get there, doing new things. And that's why the challenge of this trip is the fact that we're doing a new route.
An overnight snow hides yesterday's footprints and the crevasses. What may look like solid footing can easily be a false floor. Then it happens. 2 crevasses open up and swallow them. Chris into the smaller one, and that may have saved their lives.
How you feeling?
Happy to be back out. Happy the sun's shining. Confused as to where we should take our stuff next.
I only fell in maybe 5 feet. Thank God that crevasse is there, otherwise Bruce and I would have been in that other crevasse together for eternity. But luck was on our side, thank God.
Hearing their radio calls, the 2 remaining teammates respond to help. But nothing happens quickly here, except death, if you think about it. The mission? Rescue Bruce's pack, which is exactly where he left it, in the bottom of the crevasse, where he almost bought it.
If this crevasse wasn't here, we'd both be in that crevasse. We'd both be in it right now.
You couldn't have stopped.
No way. I came on a little angle here, right? So granted, there's a little bit slack in the rope. But when he fell, I was trying to resist it and pushing against on this direction.
Was it dragging?
And it just kept dragging me right in. And my feet, I was sliding into third base, and my feet shot right through this snow bridge right here, and then I went down in that hole. It was only because I fell in that hole that we both didn't end up in that hole over there. We weren't fated to die today.
Coming up, the probes up the second highest mountain on Earth continue, but the attempt to establish the higher base camp is a taxing affair. This summit will give up its glory in an excruciating way. This is the Jeep World of Adventure Sports. The first attempt to reach the east face of K2 almost cost the Shared Summits team half its members. Now, on another unclimbed ridge, they're able to finally establish their advanced base camp at 18,500 feet. They think that 4 such camps beyond this will be needed to get to the top. Not far away is the southeast buttress, a twisting line of rock towers that crashes into a rock face 6,000 feet above the camp. How to attack it is a major topic, and something that will take them 3 weeks.
Well, I think that what's accessible to us from here, where we start making progress right away, is that kind of, that rock band that starts over there. So low down is the far right skyline, but then there's another one that pokes out on the other side. and then take it up into that rock towers there and angle up to the skyline.
On the southeast buttress, the team knows the dangers. What they know now is that the ropes they laid down were constantly getting covered by falling snow. Don will just miss getting taken out by a rock fall. Then there'll be an avalanche. With that, Bruce got swept away.
About 1,000 feet up the face already. It's only been about 2 hours or so just fixing this line, and Don's about to take us up to this big rock tower. We're helping get a solid anchor in. These crazy ice screws, man, it hits the sun for part of a day and it'll melt out. That's how hot it is on these slopes. Kind of crazy when you think it's, it's only below freezing here.
The team ascends 1,500 vertical feet, stringing the rope that they will depend on to go between camps. The routine is forge a new route upwards, then spend the next few days moving gear to that high point. In between, wait out the storms.
Nice lead, Don.
Thank you.
Up there. Hey, base camp. This is Chris and Don. We're on the ridge. We reached a place at Camp 1, over.
Hey, fantastic. Good job.
Thanks. The climate is absolutely spectacular. There's these killer rock towers that we're weaving in and out of on these amazing snow gullies. Coolest climb I've ever done on K2, over.
That's awesome. Check the weather report. Seems like it's continuing to be good weather for you.
Great. Well, we're going to try to make the most of it. It's a crystal clear day, so we might go a lot higher if we can, over.
Okay, good luck, over.
Okay, over and out from Camp 1.
Over and out, thank you.
Reaching Camp 1, there is a tent platform to dig, and the ground has the perfect pitch for that. It wasn't this way for Chris the first 2 times here. In 02 and 05, the weather was so vicious, nobody made it to the top.
It's the luxury of Camp 1.
For about 6,100 meters, which is just over 20,000 feet. And you can hear the wind starting to blow outside, and we seem to be totally protected, at least while the wind is blowing from this angle.
Super comfortable.
We make ourselves at home. Here's Don climbing between Camp 1 and Camp 2. And it's absolutely amazing already. Could you imagine any place more beautiful?
Unbelievable. It's nice to be somewhere no one has ever been before, too.
Yeah. I've never been a place prettier than this.
Uncharted territory. What a ridge.
Dude, this is K2. This is exactly what we want from K2. I mean, look at the route just from right above us here. Get onto that little tiny crest, just in like the rocks, keep following it up. As long as the snow stays as good as it is right now. See, it's not even slush yet.
One rope coming up.
Nice.
They look for a Camp 2 site, but it's too steep everywhere they look.
So how big is the ledge you're on now, over?
Probably 5 feet, over.
Well, let me ask you this question. From where you are, is there any way to traverse over towards the Abruzzi?
Yeah, it doesn't look too hopeful, over.
Conditions. Well, after 3 weeks on the ridge, it seems like we've hit the ultimate dead end. We have to get off the ridge and go one way or the other, and it just doesn't seem like it's worth the risk. It's no matter how we're doing, we're putting ourselves in total Russian roulette. And for those of us who have more to live for than just this mountain, it might be time to head down and find another way to get to the top.
Coming up, the team heads up the Abruzzi Spur, next on the Jeep World of Adventure Sports.
You may be on K2 and there's not a cloud in the sky, and all of a sudden there develops this strange hut of a cloud, like a cap. And inside the air is racing, and when you are there, how to find your way back, it's a problem.
Everything feels really good. All the decisions that we've made so far seem to work. It just feels like we're gonna summit this thing. I'm pretty confident that that's how this thing's gonna end.
After wasting weeks on their dream route, Shared Summits confers with a Korean team about taking the Abruzzi route. It is a change that leads to a jolt in confidence.
After 4 weeks of trying different routes to attempt something new, we're back to the Abruzzi route. It's our third attempt, and now on this one, all the unknowns are gone. So we know the route. The biggest worries are still the weather, the wind, and can we stay warm?
"3:30 a.m. The team packs up to head out. These are solemn moments. The unknown does that.
What I know so far about climbing with this team is that we know we can depend upon each other to be strong enough to do the task that needs to be done.
They say goodbye to crew members and then make a promise they might not be able to keep.
Hey, Didar. Hello, sir. All right. See you in 5 days.
Yes. Javid. See you, man. Okay. We'll call you from up there.
Through the ice fall, Bruce leads the way. But K2 has an angry feeling today. You can see and hear the wind. Here, to get as much sea level oxygen as you would with one breath, you must take 3. Back at base camp, Joel stays optimistic, which is a climbing prerequisite.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning. About 7 hours ago, the climbers left to begin their summit push again. The conditions are less than perfect, but they're hoping that the weather window, as forecasted, is going to open up to provide a chance to hit the summit.
The reality is, there is no window. The trio gets locked up and can't move.
So this is mountaineering at its worst. Here we are trapped in a freaking tent in a snowstorm. The wind's been blowing all night long. We're dehydrated. We haven't eaten hardly enough to sustain the energy that we've been using the last couple of days. The weather didn't look so good. Sure enough, it fell apart on us. Now who knows what we're about to do.
The attempt fails, and they return to base camp.
A little tired.
Give us a few days, we'll go back. We have no idea what it's going to take to get to Camp 3. Our expectation is it's going to be extremely difficult.
If we get to 3 or within a few hundred meters of 3, then in this next block of time, then we should have cracked the summit.
It's really going to be the crux of the route. If we get through that, I think the enthusiasm is going to be overwhelming. There's nothing that's going to stop us.
I think it would be unhealthy to not be nervous. And I'm not really nervous about the bottom part. I'm definitely not nervous about the parts that we've already been to. But what I am nervous about is that bottleneck and the traverse. So many things have to fall in place before we can get there and get back.
At the camp, there are many teams. and they gather up and agree to pool information and resources to mount a unified multinational assault on K2. This could not be more different than the original plan. The weather, though, continues to be legendary. The type mountaineers talk about with fear when thinking about K2. The rope laid down by the leader disappears in the snow, and every step must be guarded. One thing keeps them moving up. It's the optimistic view. The weather forecast has things clearing up in a few days. But to take advantage of that time, they must endure this.
Coldest day we've had so far, that's for certain. Everything's just icing up. Must be 10 below, 20 below zero. Winds gusting up to 60 miles an hour and blowing snow non-stop.
Once again, it's decision time.
In. This is definitely the hardest 12 hours I've ever had in the mountains. Just praying it doesn't turn into a 24 or 36 hour day. Must be getting old. Good job. Thanks.
Life at Camp 3. We're all looking forward to going down, and at the same time I think we're reluctant to go down. You know, you get so high on the mountain and you want to be able to finish the job. And we've had constant conversations about conditions and weather and all kinds of other things. Snow conditions and snow depth and avalanche danger. So, but then we're making good decisions as we continue to do on this trip. That's really important to go home at the end of it.
So the group heads back to the relative comfort of base camp to regroup again. The next attempt, next on the Jeep World of Adventure Sports.
I think this expedition really proved the importance of teamwork. You know, you can bring together all of these amazing egos and powerful people, but if they're not there for each other, when they're truly tired and truly in need, somebody's gonna die. It's just not a team unless you're willing to be there for people when they need you.
This international team, created by their collective failure, gets ready for attempt number 5 on K2.
I'm a little bit nervous. I've got some anxiety. Me and my 2 partners will attempt to climb the hardest mountain in the world. And so that leaves me with a lump in my throat.
Back up in those clouds is K2. I think this is the end of my long and infamous career with this mountain. If I hadn't failed twice, I wouldn't understand how important it's the summit. And how do I go on? It's just putting one foot in front of the other and overcoming all sorts of crazy obstacles. But I can't do this alone. I need these guys.
I find it hard to consider this is my 5th attempt on the mountain. Really, I consider this as the first. It's everything up to now has really been a set of steps to the summit push.
Yep. We'll call you. This is the first time we're really thinking about climbing the summit, and we're really psyching ourselves up.
The team once again takes on this fortress of solitude, this icefall that is the gateway to their promised land. The weather again is uncooperative, but that could change in moments, and that's what they hope, as they want to get another chance at mountaineering's monster.
All right, you ready to get our butts whooped again?
Yep, ready to step on the beast.
Here we go, is our first step. Pretty nice up there, huh?
Yeah.
Compared to the first climb, everyone is looking a little bit older on this climb to Camp 1. The news there isn't good, but everyone is safe.
Well, here we are back on our way up K2. We're below Camp 1. And sure enough, it's snowing and blowing on us again. This mountain loves to torture us. Certainly never given us the easy way out.
The climb moves on. The hours add up. Which brings you to one of the greatest dangers of the sport. When you have given every ounce of your strength, and this very battle with the mountain and the elements have sapped your mind, and you have gotten to a higher, more precarious height where every step demands you be at your sharpest, when that cannot be physically possible.
Beautiful Camp 1 again. God.
We got up this morning, and when we looked up onto the Black Pyramid towards Camp 2, there was just a number of clouds ripping across the face. We were alone, there was no one else with us, and so we kind of talked to each other, and we all decided, let's just go for it.
This is the funnel right here. This is probably the worst place to be in conditions like this. I can only go through this section one at a time. It's just too dangerous.
Just standing there, not doing anything, could be thought of as too dangerous. You can see down below, Camp 1 they left behind, barely, through the snow. These men are at that precarious line where the dream of summiting threatens to collide with good sense. The temperatures continue to drop to the point where our ability to do this with them might be compromised. Tuesday, July 17th, and a glimpse of blue sky will seem like a mirage soon in the race to move higher to establish Camp 3.
It's definitely the coldest, hardest day so far going up to Camp 3.
They seem so close, but they've been that already. Is the summit their destiny? Next, on the Jeep World of Adventure Sports.
Is K2 risky? Absolutely. We know that there's consequence for making a mistake. You really gotta wait for your moment. Any regrets? Not yet.
The climb is still heading for Camp 3, takeoff point for Camp 4 and the summit. Unfortunately, K2 is being K2.
Here we are at 23,000 feet, and the weather's just not cooperating at all. Don is doing a great job of breaking trail for us. Days like this really fill you with doubt. Snow conditions are just horrendous, and looked like the wind died about an hour and a half ago. It's one of those days when you wish you took up golf instead of mountaineering. I will just find Camp 3 somehow, and then probably 4 hours before we're ready to roll in our sleeping bags over.
We're at Camp 3, and I'll tell you, it took us about 2.5 hours to ascend that last 100 meters or so. Without exaggeration, you couldn't touch bottom. And but we did get here. We were all comfortable. We're boiling water, and we'll head for Camp 4 tomorrow.
The next morning, the mission is to get higher and establish Camp 4. But the snow is waist deep, so the team needs a plan B. And they decide to accept a little progress instead of none, and it's called Camp 3.5. At this altitude, work like this feels impossible, and it just might be.
Yeah, drop it down to you.
Then there are avalanche thoughts.
We don't have total plans, but we just got dead end. The snow is just about 3 feet laying on top of whatever's below it, and it's filling up into good avalanche conditions over.
Okay, be careful and good luck. Over.
Up at Camp 3.5, the weather break has arrived. That and this view put them on top of the world.
Here we are at 7,700 meters outside of our Camp 3.5. It was quite an amazing place underneath this giant tower of ice. There's the team, getting ready to leave camp.
Most of the teams are together now, and that's good because it is time for teamwork.
How you guys feeling up there? Got double thumbs up?
Yeah.
Feeling good?
The strongest climbers take turns at the front and act like snowplows for those behind, maybe 20 steps, and then they let someone else take a turn.
What do you reckon our forward progress is? 50 meters per hour?
Not very much.
The plan is to climb 4,000 feet today. They make it in a few short hours. Then the dangerous climbing will begin. From Camp 4, the summit will be 15 to 17 hours.
Welcome to Camp 4.
AKA the shoulder?
Yep.
Nice. Too bad the view's not very good.
Yeah.
Jeez.
How you feel, Bruce?
Tired, happy, and ecstatic at the view. You just can't stay on top of the world because of that thing.
That's the target, the summit of K2. Still 3,000 feet up with a nasty-looking few tons of snow precariously hanging on its edge.
Hey, weather conditions are excellent, and we're going to start heading out, so we'll call you about 2 hours south of Bottleneck, over.
Okay, you have a good trip, over.
Okay, over and out.
I don't know if you can see anything up there. Couple of lights. They're in the Bottleneck. Don, some Koreans, some Russians.
He said that the Koreans, it seemed, were going to head out at 11, and that they were going to head out at 12, but it sounded like everybody's backed up, so they're about an hour and 20 behind where they thought they were, but it sounds like they're ready to go. So the night and the summit push has begun.
Mission Control has been informed, and by dawn, the launch to the summit is suffering from attrition. Of the 28 climbers who reached Camp 4, only 18 are here. Once again, K2 has put the thought of death in the air.
It's been pretty dramatic so far. The Korean team was ahead of us. They were all on oxygen, and one of their Sherpas fell down the south face to his death. And I don't think we'll ever find his body. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
Interesting to see what happens is putting it ridiculously mild. This is one wrong move, and who knows what. It is overcoming the intense danger that lures them here in the first place. If it was even remotely easy, it wouldn't mean as much.
I mean, we've got another maybe 350 to go, which is unbelievable. Considering how hard we've been working, this is a big mountain.
They have paid every price K2 demanded, and now savor the final steps to the toughest summit. In moments, they'll stand 28,251 feet above sea level. And the moment they get there, they'll have to worry about getting down.
This is one of the hardest summits I've ever had.
Well, congratulations for making it. What can we do for you down here, over?
I think I just pray that we can make it back safely. There's a long way before we hit the fixed lines, over.
Very, very good. Well, be safe.
And safe they were, for the most part. 18 summited the Savage Mountain, and all but one made it down, meaning the K2 death list grew by 2. The Shared Summits team also held some individual distinctions. No Scotsman had ever summited K2 until Bruce Norman. Don Bowie, the 4th Canadian to ever do it. And Chris Warner, in his 3rd trip to the mountain, became the 15th American to summit K2 and the 8th to summit Everest and K2 as well. These are the men, and this was their story. The kind of thing we see in the Jeep world of adventure sports.